Ask anyone how humans first arrived in Australia, and you will likely hear a simple, comfortable story. We picture ancient people walking across land bridges during the Ice Age, when sea levels were lower and continents were connected. This narrative has been repeated in classrooms and museums for generations. It seems logical, straightforward, and fits neatly into what we know about human migration patterns elsewhere in the world. But there is a problem with this story. A problem so significant that it has puzzled scientists for decades. Australia has been isolated by vast stretches of open ocean for millions of years. Even during the absolute peak of the last ice age, when global sea levels dropped by more than 120 meters, there was never a complete land bridge connecting this continent to mainland Asia. The distance across open water was always significant. At a minimum, ancient travelers would have faced crossings of 90 to 100 kilometers of treacherous shark-infested sea. This means that to reach Australia, early humans did not just walk, they had to sail. They did this not as a fluke, but in sufficient numbers to establish a thriving population. This presents a staggering implication that rewrites our timeline of human progress. If people reached Australia more than 50,000 years ago, as archaeological evidence now confirms, then they were undertaking sophisticated maritime journeys at a time when we thought humans were still developing basic stone tools. For years, this contradiction sat uncomfortably at the edge of scientific understanding. How could Ice Age people, with no written language, no metal, and no domesticated animals, have mastered ocean navigation? And more importantly, where exactly did they come from? Was it a single courageous voyage, or multiple waves of migration over thousands of years? Did they come from one region, or many? The answer, or lack thereof, has haunted archaeologists and geneticists for decades. But now, a groundbreaking study has finally examined the DNA of Australia's first people, and the results do not just tell us how they arrived. They rewrite the entire story of human capability during the Ice Age. To understand the magnitude of this achievement, we need to step back 65,000 years ago. The world was deep in the grip of an ice age. Glaciers choked the northern hemisphere, locking up water and exposing vast continental shelves. This created a massive landmass known as Sunda, connecting what we now call mainland Southeast Asia with islands like Sumatra, Java and Borneo. To the south lay another giant supercontinent, Sahul. This joined Australia, New Guinea and Tasmania into a single colossal landmass. But between these two supercontinents stretched a complex maze of deep water islands, reefs and narrow straits. This region is known as Wallacea, named after the naturalist Alfred Russel Wallace. Wallacea was a barrier unlike any other early humans had encountered. It wasn't a desert or a mountain range, it was a biological void. Deep channels of open ocean separated these islands, even during the lowest sea levels. This deep water prevented animals from Asia like tigers, elephants and primates from ever reaching Australia. Crossing from Sunda to Sahul required navigating these straits, often completely out of sight of land. For decades, the scientific assumption was that humans only crossed when absolutely necessary, perhaps drifting on debris during a tsunami or a freak storm, clinging desperately to whatever floated. But archaeological discoveries began to chip away at this accidental drift narrative. In northern Australia, researchers began uncovering stone tools, charcoal from ancient fires, and ochre pigments used for art, all dating back more than 50,000 years. Then came an even more startling find at Majid-Bebe, a rock shelter in the Northern Territory. Excavations here revealed evidence of human occupation dating to at least 65,000 years ago. The artifacts were not simple rocks. They included grinding stones, edge-ground axes, and reflective pigment processing. These were signs of a sophisticated, adaptable culture. This was not a desperate group clinging to survival after a lucky drift. These were people thriving, innovating, and spreading across a new world. But the question remained, how did they get there? To answer this, scientists turned to the most powerful tool available for studying ancient human history, DNA. The research team collected genetic samples from Aboriginal Australians, Papuans, and populations across Southeast Asia and the Pacific. They were not just looking for one or two markers. They analysed entire genomes, comparing hundreds of thousands of genetic mutations to trace lineages back through time. What they found was extraordinary. The DNA revealed that the ancestors of Aboriginal Australians and Papuans split from other Eurasian populations between 51,000 and 72,000 years ago, with the most likely estimate around 58,000 years. This ancient divergence confirmed that the journey to Sahul was not a recent event. It happened deep in the Pleistocene, when modern humans were just beginning to spread out of Africa and across the globe. But the genetic data told an even more detailed and surprising story. By comparing the DNA of Aboriginal Australians with that of Papuans, researchers discovered that these two groups separated from each other roughly 37,000 years ago. This suggests that after arriving in Sahul, populations spread across the continent and into what is now New Guinea, developing distinct genetic signatures over tens of thousands of years. The analysis also revealed something unexpected. There was evidence of ancient mixing between the ancestors of Australians and a mysterious archaic human group. This was not Neanderthal DNA, which is commonly found in European and Asian populations. This was Denisovan DNA, traces of an enigmatic hominin species known only from a handful of fossils found in a Siberian cave and a jawbone in Tibet. The high concentration of Denisovan ancestry in Aboriginal Australians and Papuans indicates that these archaic humans once lived across Southeast Asia and Wallacea. When modern humans made their brave journey south, they did not just find empty islands. They encountered and interbred with these ancient populations. This genetic legacy, still detectable today, adds another layer to the story. The crossing to Sahul was not just a physical journey, it was a meeting of different branches of the human family tree. So, if the DNA confirms humans reached Australia over 50,000 years ago, and we know they had to cross open water to get there, what does this tell us about their capabilities? It tells us they were far more advanced than we ever imagined. Think about what crossing to Sahul actually required. First, they needed watercraft. Not simple logs or debris, but constructed vessels capable of carrying multiple people, food, and fresh water across distances of at least 90 kilometers. These boats had to withstand ocean currents, waves, and potentially days at sea. Second, they needed navigation. Crossing completely out of sight of land requires an understanding of the stars, currents, wind patterns, and the ability to read the flight paths of birds and the movements of marine life. Third, and perhaps most importantly, they needed intent. Such a voyage could not be spontaneous. It required gathering supplies, coordinating a group, and convincing people to risk everything for a land they could not even see. This level of planning and technological sophistication fundamentally changes how we view Ice Age humans. They were not just hunter-gatherers reacting to their environment. They were strategic thinkers, innovators, and explorers. But one question remained: was this a single lucky voyage, or did people cross multiple times? The DNA provides an answer. Genetic diversity within Aboriginal Australian populations suggests a relatively large founding group, not just a handful of castaways. This implies either a massive initial migration or multiple intentional crossings over time. Some researchers argue that the uniformity of certain genetic markers points to a rapid, concentrated migration event. Others suggest waves of people crossed over thousands of years, each bringing new genetic variation and cultural knowledge. What is clear is that these journeys were deliberate and repeated. The archaeological record supports this. Sites across northern and western Australia show human presence shortly after the initial arrival, indicating people did not just land and stay put. They explored, adapted, and spread across an entire continent with remarkable speed. Within a few thousand years, humans had reached the southern coasts of Australia, an incredible feat across diverse and challenging landscapes. The genetic data also revealed connections between Aboriginal Australians and other Pacific populations, suggesting that the spirit of exploration did not end with the crossing to Sahul. Over tens of thousands of years, people continued to move, trade, and interact across islands Southeast Asia and the Pacific, laying the groundwork for the even more dramatic voyages of Polynesian navigators thousands of years later. Thank you for watching. If you found this video helpful, be sure to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments below. We always love hearing your perspective.